Hello and welcome. My name is Bashir Fadl, and on behalf of LearnITCoursesOnline.com as well as LearnJobsOnline.com, I'd like to thank you. We do know that you have a variety of choices of IT training, and you've chosen us, so we really appreciate that and hope that you enjoy it. Thank you. Hello and welcome. Some of you might already have a background in IT and are aware of SQL and looking to further our knowledge of SQL, and some of us might be starting with SQL for the first time. So what we're going to do is oversimplify in this first session what SQL is, assuming that we have no idea what SQL is, have never used it before. We just know it's something that we'd like to learn or need to learn to get something done. A lot of us might work with spreadsheets. So we have some data like we do have on the right side that has names and first name, middle name, last name, and telephone numbers. Maybe we're keeping a list of our customers' names, or maybe we're keeping a chart of accounts with some of the accounts that we have and the bills that we take care of. So that's a simple spreadsheet. It could be in Excel, it could be in Google Sheets, and so on. But now if that exact spreadsheet was saved in the database, we refer to it as a table. So a table is basically an object in a database where we store our data. The language that is used to communicate with the database is SQL. You probably heard of different kind of databases, such as an Oracle database, or a SQL Server database, or a MySQL database, or a Vertica database. Basically, all of them are a repository where we store data there. Instead of a spreadsheet, we store it in tables. What does SQL do then? SQL is divided into two segments, DDL and DML. Data definition language. So in the database, there's multiple and a variety of objects. One of those objects is a table where we store our data. So in the DDL part of SQL, we can create an object. So suppose I needed an accounts table, then I can use SQL to create it, which is the data definition part of SQL. So I use what's called this create statement. Suppose we want to change that object and add one more column or one more field, or we want to change the field definition or get rid of a field, then I will change that object, in this case the table, and it will be alter table. And that's the data definition part of it. The third most common command is, now we're done with that table, we don't need that object anymore, I can drop the object, in this case the table, so we would drop the object. We're not talking about data yet, we're just talking about objects, in this case a table. So the data definition part of SQL allows me to create a table, alter the table, drop the table, which is one example of an object. So objects within the database, we can create them, alter them, and drop them through SQL. Some of the most common objects in databases include tables. So for example, here we have a person's table, which we're looking at, that has information about the person. We have one that has their address information, some that have to do with their human resources information, such as employee, what departments they work, what shifts they work, production information, sales information. So all of those are tables, quote unquote, spreadsheets that contain that data about it, about our employees and about our company. So if we need to create those objects, which are tables, or change them, which is alter, or get rid of them and drop them, then we can use SQL to do that. Other objects more commonly used within relational databases, such as Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, Vertica, include views, which are kind of stored queries, basically. Then there are synonyms. There are what we call programmability, which includes something called the store procedure. There's sequences within the table itself. In some cases, we would have triggers, which is a different kind of code that executes within a certain time, and then indexes. All of those are different examples of objects within a database, and SQL allows us to do three main things, and that is to create the objects, to modify, which is alter the objects, and then get rid of them, which is drop those objects. Now we move on to the second part of SQL, which is the DML, data manipulation language. What does that mean? It means that we can manipulate the data that we have. Right now we have those records, and I'd like to add one more record. We have a new employee that would like to enter their information. So data manipulation in SQL allows me to add a record, and that command is what's called the insert statement. Insert. So I can insert a new record or records. Suppose I just want to change information. The person has changed their last name or their telephone number, then I would use the update statement, which allows me to update the record for that person or persons. And then if I want to get rid of that record altogether, then I could use the delete command. So when it comes to the data, we use the DML part of SQL, which is insert, where we can insert record or multiple records. We can update, meaning modify the record or records, and then we can get rid of them, which is delete. There's other commands such as merge, which we'll get into in the future, but at a higher level, those are the three most commonly used commands. So when we're looking at objects, not the data, but the objects, we use the DDL part of SQL, which is data definition language, to create, alter, and drop. When we're looking specifically in the data, in this case within the table, we can insert new records, we can update existing records, and we can delete records that we no longer need. Then there is the most infamous select statement. And that is where we can query the data and see the data. And this is something that's commonly used when we're querying our data in the case of reports and dashboards and business intelligence and a lot of ad hoc reports. So on a very high level, this is what SQL is. It's the language to communicate with your databases. You can create objects, most commonly a table. You can alter the objects, most commonly a table, and you can drop them once you don't need them. When it comes to the data, you can add new records using the insert statement. You can update the records, and then if you don't need them anymore, you can delete the records. And to query the data and look at the data and filter through the data and even do calculations as you're looking at the data and viewing it, whatever your reporting interface is, then you can use the select statement. With this, we come to the end of this session, and we'd like to thank you for joining us. And also, don't hesitate to visit our website at learnitcoursesonline.com to leave your feedback and reviews. And also look at our events. We have a lot of free sessions, and we'd be more than happy to have you join at any given time, and also sign up with us for our newsletter. Thank you and have a wonderful time.